Yo, YouTube, what's up with your boy? Sports and Fitness Rants. I'm back, guys. Click that like button. Subscribe to my channel. What's up, y'all? Welcome back, guys. Welcome back, man. Got another great video for you guys today, as usual, man. You guys know the deal on this channel. So about setting the record straight, stopping the lies, stopping the narratives, stopping them from rewriting history, guys. And in this video, I want to talk about something that I saw floating around the internet. Once again, ESPN is promoting LeBron James, another narrative now, and they're promoting the 2016 Cavaliers as having one of the great playoff runs in NBA's history. I saw something on Instagram a couple of days ago, and they had a list of, they wanted you to choose who had the most or the best playoff run, right? And they had like 5 different options. And they had, the Rockets with Hakeem Olajuwon. And I think they had like the 98 Bulls, I want to say, on there. I think it was the 98 Bulls. Then they had like the Dallas Mavericks in 2011, right? They had some of the usual suspects. And they had the 2016 Cavaliers. And they had them there as having one of the great playoff runs. Now, we know they promote LeBron James as having, being the best Finals MVP, the 2016 Finals. They say that LeBron James, the greatest Finals MVP for the 2016 Finals, which I did a video on that. We don't believe in that. It's a bunch of nonsense. But this is saying that the 2016 Cavaliers had the greatest playoff run ever. That's insane, man. We're going to break it down in this video, man. I mean, just expose these clowns with this nonsense. Once again, another narrative. They got to keep promoting LeBron James and putting him in these lists. Everything, man, doesn't make any sense. And I want to thank you guys, everyone across the world, everyone across the states has been supporting my channel. Once again, you guys know I am truly, truly humbled, man. It means a lot, guys, for real. Shout out to everybody in the membership, man. Like I said, real recognize real. And you guys know what to do. Turn the volume all the way up. Hit that play button. Remember, these videos are for educational purposes. And let's roll. So, yes, guys, man, like I said, I wanted to talk briefly about how they're, once again, trying to promote LeBron James and, sell you a narrative that, everything that LeBron James does, he's top 5, top 10, top 3, every top 10 dunker, top 5, top 10 scorer, top 5 rebounder, top 5 this, top 10 this. I mean, everything. Oh, he's the greatest Finals MVP of all time. Oh, and now they're trying to say that the 2015-2016 Cavaliers had one of the, the great playoff runs in NBA's history. They actually try to put them on a list with some of the other great playoff runs that you've heard mentioned time and time again. I never hear anyone bringing up the 2016 Cavaliers run as one of the great impressive runs in NBA's history. I've heard people talk about the 2016 Finals and the 3-1 comeback. We get all of that, man. We know the deal. That Finals was a weird Finals, to say the least. Steph Curry wasn't 100%. He wasn't his best version of himself, right? He was dealing with the injury. No excuse for Steph Curry, but that's the facts, right? The LeBron James fans love to bring up the injuries for Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving in 2015, but they don't keep that same energy for Steph Curry in 2016. They don't keep that same energy, right? They don't talk about Andrew Bogut went down. Andre Iguodala went down. They don't want to talk about the Draymond Green suspension. You name me another NBA Finals in NBA's history where a starter from another team got suspended a game. I don't remember this ever happening, guys. Not that I can recall. But that happened for LeBron James. That favored LeBron James' team, did it not? So these kinds of weird things happen to help LeBron James out, but his fans won't mention none of this stuff. And ESPN, Kendrick Perkins, these guys will continue to promote LeBron James in 2016 Finals, and now they're trying to promote that entire playoff run as being something special, one of the great playoff runs. Not even close, guys. So let's think about this now. Who did the Cleveland Cavaliers play in the first round during that run, that spectacular run that you're trying to say now? They played the Detroit Pistons in the first round. Now, the Detroit Pistons weren't a horrendous team. They won 44 games. They're 44-38. It's a pretty good team, man. It's mediocre, right? Not bad for a number 8 seed, man. No doubt about it. But once again, it's not just the team, the amount of wins that the team had or didn't have, right? Because there's different reasons why teams win games or teams don't win a certain amount of games. Maybe, they had a main guy that was injured, right? So the team only won a certain amount of games. These are the kinds of things that we talk about. Sometimes a number 3 seed is really like, not a number 3 seed, right? Maybe they were really a number 6 seed, but sometimes a number 6 seed is really like a number 2 or 3 seed, but, their main player got hurt for a lot of games, so they didn't win as many games. There's different reasons why teams fall in the standings, right? Why they win a certain amount of games, why they don't win a certain amount of games. Sometimes you can explain this stuff. Sometimes you got to give context here. So you look at the Detroit Pistons, 44-38 for an 8th seed team. That sounds pretty damn good. And it is, right? They're above 500. So you have the Cleveland Cavaliers as the 1 seed that year, playing against the Detroit Pistons in the first round, the number 8 seed. The problem for the Cleveland Cavaliers is not necessarily the team, right? The Detroit Pistons, oh, they got 44 wins. That's a decent first-round opponent for an 8 seed. The problem is the players. Who the hell was on that team? They were coached by Stan Van Gundy. Not impressed with Stan Van Gundy's coaching ability. This is the same Stan Van Gundy that was removed by Pat Riley during the 2006 NBA season when he was coaching the Miami Heat. You guys remember that? Pat Riley came in, removed Stan Van Gundy, and then led them to a championship. So anyway, I'm not impressed with Stan Van Gundy. I'm not saying he's not a good coach or a bad coach or anything. He's a solid coach, no doubt, but he's not Jeff Van Gundy. But he's never won anything, right? He's known for a guy who panics. Remember, he was the coach of the 2009 Orlando Magic, right? So people have, called out Stan Van Gundy and whatever. But anyway, he's the coach of that Detroit team, all right? I believe they were the number 8 seed. I think they were 13th in offense, 12th in defense, whatever. It doesn't matter. But I want you guys to think about the guys that were leading this team, right? KCP, Kadavius Caldwell-Pope, Tobias Harris, and Marcus Morris were their best players, guys. I believe you had these are all young guys back in 2016. You had Andre Drummond on the self-proclaimed greatest rebounder of all time. You had Andre Drummond on that team. But the highest points per game, guys, their best scorer on that team, guys, was Marcus Morris at 17 points a game. 17 points a game. So that was the most potent scorer that the Cleveland Cavaliers had to face in the first round was a 17-point per game scorer, Marcus Morris. Anyone impressed with Marcus Morris' overall game? Does his name ring bells? Not at all. This is the same guy I just did a video on the other day that was talking about Kevin Durant's leadership going to the New York Knicks. You guys are going to clowns, man. No one's worried about him. Tobias Harris, he's a solid player. Tobias Harris, solid player, man. He was like their second best player. Is this a formidable team led by some crazy all-time great players? No, not at all. KCP, solid player once again. These are all role guys, man. They're best players. This team was led by role players. That's all they have on the team. They're not knock on these guys. They're role players, though. So once again, the Cleveland Cavaliers didn't have an impressive win in the first round. They swept the Detroit Pistons 4-0. And I remember a lot of those games. They were closer than, the score may have indicated. And some of those games were close. The Detroit Pistons gave effort. They were young. They were hustling out there. No doubt about it. The Cleveland Cavaliers probably went in there going through the motions. But they swept the 4-0, guys. They were not a formidable team. So that was their first round win. Not impressive. There have been many, many teams that have played much greater competition in the first round. But not only based off the team's wins and losses or the grace of the actual team, but they were led by greater players than Marcus Morris and Tobias Harris and KCP, man. Like I said, no knock on those dudes, but then they're not legit Hall of Famers or all-time greats, man. These guys are not even all-stars like that. So that's the first round. Beat the Detroit Pistons. Great for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Not impressed. Then the second round, they faced the Atlanta Hawks. Once again, the weakest 60-win team in NBA's history, the 2015 Hawks. The Cleveland Cavaliers played them again in 2016. But for some reason, that Hawks team was the number 4 seed, only won 48 games that year. So they won 60 games the year before. Now this year, they're 48-34. Because I told you there was a fluke season for the Hawks that year in the weakest Eastern Conference in NBA's history. So they're going to try to sell you this idea that the Cleveland Cavaliers had the hardest or one of the hardest runs to an NBA championship when they played in the weakest Eastern Conference in NBA's history. This doesn't even add up. So they played the Hawks in the second round, who won 48 games, like I said. And they were led by Al Horford, Kyle Korver, Jeff Teague, and Paul Millsap. Those were their best players. So once again, though, the Cleveland Cavaliers play a team in the second round that didn't even have a 20-point per game score. The highest score, the best score on that team was Paul Millsap at 16.7 points a game, guys. So now, between the first and second round, the Cleveland Cavaliers have not even played against a player that scored on average more than 20 points per game. The first round was 17 points a game by Marcus Morris. The second round now is 16.7 points a game by Paul Millsap. Once again, listen to the names that I'm saying here. Does anyone feel that these are formidable all-time great players that are leading their teams? No one's worried about Paul Millsap. No one's worried about Marcus Morris. They said these are solid players, but these aren't perennial all-stars. These are not great all-time greats. These are not legends. These are the Hall of Fame players. And once again, I'm not saying you have to be a Hall of Famer to make the team legit, but these are the leaders of the team. These guys are not even averaging 20 points a game. In the first 2 rounds, you didn't even play a guy that averaged 20 yet. Come on, man. These teams were led by role guys, role players, not great players. In the weak Eastern Conference, these teams could win 48 games, could win 44 games. Now, in the Eastern Conference, now, they would face what? The Toronto Raptors, right? The Toronto LeBrons. The team that can never beat LeBron James. The team that LeBron James fans love to hype up as the team that LeBron James owns. Oh, LeBron James owns the Lakers. Think about that. Michael Jordan was known for owning the New York Knicks, let's say, for example, in the 90s, right? The New York Knicks were a lot more formidable than the Raptors have ever been, guys. Than DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry Raptors. That was a leader of this team. And this was the first round, the Eastern Conference Finals. The first round that they faced a 20-point per game score in the playoffs. DeMar DeRozan averaged 23 points a game in that series. Kyle Lowry, I believe, averaged 20 points a game in that series. So they didn't face a 20-point per game score in the playoffs to the Eastern Conference Finals, guys. Once again, the Toronto Raptors, they were a solid team, but they were never a contender. They were never legit, man. Would they win like 53 games, I think, that season, the Raptors? I think they won 56 games that season, which is good. 56 games is good. Once again, the weakest Eastern Conference in NBA's history. The Raptors, they were the team right underneath the Cavaliers for a couple of years there, man. But they had no one leading them. Paul Millsap, Kyle Lowry, these are solid players, man. No doubt about it. DeMar DeRozan might even be a Hall of Famer, but he's barely a Hall of Famer, man. And he's never a number one guy. He ain't leading the team nowhere, DeMar DeRozan. Right? But they always tell you, oh, that's what Michael Jordan would be. He would be DeMar DeRozan, a guy who's never made an all-defensive team, never sniffed an MVP, never led a team a damn plays. That's Michael Jordan in this era, man. Makes no sense. But that's who the Cleveland Cavaliers beat going into the finals. They beat no one. They beat no one. They faced 150-win team en route to the NBA Finals. And then once again, when they get to the finals, this is where people try to say they had the greatest run. They're basing the whole run off of one team, the 73-win Warriors, who, like I said, were down 3-1 in the Western Conference Finals. So they were getting beat down. And if it wasn't for a Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook choke job, they wouldn't have been in the finals. That's who the Cavaliers beat. They beat a team that was down 3-1, that was getting blown out, and had to have a choke job from another team. And then they came back, won, but then in the finals, Curry's hurt, right? Andrew Bogut goes down. Andre Iguodala goes down. Who else was hurt in that? There was another guy hurt in that one. I want to say it was maybe Sean Livingston got hurt in that one. But then you had the Draymond Green suspension. I mean, it was just laughable, all the things that were happening during that finals that just didn't make any sense. And like I said, LeBron James had Kyrie Irving playing alongside him to put on the show. But you're telling me that the Cleveland Cavaliers coming back from being down 3-1, why were they down 3-1? We don't know. When the Cleveland Cavaliers, LeBron James had his super team built up. Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love, LeBron James, a host of other really solid role players like J.R. Smith, like Iman Shumpert, like Tristan Thompson, like Richard Jefferson, right? These guys stepped up, man, and played a role in that finals, a huge role in that finals. We talk about that. I'm supposed to be impressed because they played against the Warriors in the finals, but they beat no one up en route to the finals. And then, like I said, in the finals, the Cleveland Cavaliers should have been beating the Golden State Warriors. They should have never been down 3-1. Never been down 3-1 with that kind of talent. But you guys weren't doing anything. LeBron James wasn't doing it in the first 2 games, right? They were inconsistent because LeBron James always having his team inconsistent because he never sacrificed for these guys. He ain't playing the defense like that. And Kyrie Irving, like I said, had to step up his game to help LeBron James. So you're trying to tell me that Steph Curry, who averaged 22 points a game in that finals, 22 points a game, does that sound like Steph Curry, guys, to you? That doesn't sound like Steph Curry to me. The dude averaged 22 points a game, guys, on 40% shooting from the field. Does that sound like Steph Curry to you? But it's like Draymond Green, guys, shot better from the three-point line in the 2016 finals than Steph Curry did. Think about that, all right? So Steph Curry wasn't on his game in that finals. That hurt Steph Curry's legacy. There's no excuses. We get all that. But I was supposed to be impressed with that run? How am I supposed to be impressed with that run? Not impressive at all. They shouldn't have been down 3-1. Now, I'm not making this video to give you guys, my thoughts or my opinion on the greatest runs ever. Because like I said, to me, this is very hard to quantify who can have the greatest. But we can have maybe a top 5 or a top 10 list of the great playoff runs in NBA's history. There's no way in hell the Cleveland Cavaliers are on there. How are the 2016 Cavaliers on there? It doesn't add up. I don't believe that LeBron James championship runs, none of them are impressive or great to me. That's the problem for LeBron James. When you're forming super teams, when you're putting all the odds in your favor, when you play in that weak Eastern Conference, it negates you from being on the list for having one of the great runs. How are you having a great run just because your opponent in the finals was supposed to be hard or tough? This is what the LeBron James fans do. They never want to talk about the Eastern Conference road to the finals. They only want to celebrate that LeBron James made it to the finals and he played against a hard team. Oh, what do you want from LeBron James? He played against a really good team in the finals. Man, listen, stop with that nonsense. The reason why LeBron James was even in the finals because he's in a weak Eastern Conference. If LeBron James played in the Western Conference, he would have never been to the finals all those years. That's the point that we're making here. But they just want to celebrate him making it to the finals. So it's okay that he loses because he wasn't supposed to win because his team wasn't that good. Exactly. His team is not that good. Why? Because LeBron James ain't making him better. He ain't raising the level of these guys. And he himself ain't raising up more often than not. That's why guys got to bail him out. That's why Kyrie Irving has to average 27 points a game, right? Everyone has to step up to help LeBron James, but then he celebrates himself. So like I said, I'm not here to say that this run was greater than that run or this run is the greatest of all time or these are the top runs. But you guys have heard the usual suspects brought up many times, right? Oh, this was a great run. This was a great run. I said they talk about they brought the Rockets in 95 or the 94 run was impressive. Like I said, you could bring up the 2011 Dallas Mavericks. But I feel like we talk about some of the same teams. I want to take it back to the 1970 New York Knicks. All right, in 1970, New York Knicks won the championship. And to me, their postseason run was way more impressive than the 2016 Cavaliers postseason run. Like I said, I'm not saying it's the 1970 Knicks are the greatest postseason run of all time, but to me, much more impressive. The teams that they beat and the players that they beat to win the championship, just much more impressive. So in the 1970 season, the New York Knicks, they beat the Baltimore Bullets in the first round, guys, all right? The Baltimore Bullets, who won 50 games. They were 50-32 in the first round. But they were led by legends, led by guys like Earl the Pearl Monroe, led by Wes Unseld, Gus Johnson. These are Hall of Famers, guys. All three of these guys are Hall of Fame players. That's who was leading in the first round. The Baltimore Bulls in the first round, the Knicks had to beat. And it went 7 games, guys. A 7-game series. All right, the New York Knicks led by Willis Reed, Dave DeBusschere, Bill Bradley, Walt Clyde Frazier. 1970 Knicks. This will be the first championship, right, for this Knicks team. So you're talking about the 1970 Knicks playing Baltimore Bulls in the first round, all right? So I just told you the guys that they beat in that first round. You're talking about straight legends. Like I said, Earl the Pearl Monroe was a baller. Like I said, Wes Unseld was just like a mountain of a man down there, just like a big piece of oak, right? Just a legit one of the great rebounders, man. And Gus Johnson, another dude, they said the dude was like just rock, like a rock, you know? He was like 6'6", 6'7", and the dude was like 230. I mean, that's crazy, man, when you think about that. Played small forward, power forward, man, and they say that you couldn't even move that guy, Gus Johnson. So this is who the Knicks beat in the first round. A much greater team than the Detroit Pistons led by Tobias Harris and KCP and Marcus Morris. Those guys couldn't shine the shoes of Earl the Pearl Monroe scoring the basketball. They just couldn't do it. Like I said, Andre Drummond, put Andre Drummond against Wes Unseld, and we'll see how great he is. See if he wants to talk all that stuff about how great of a rebounder he is. Put him up against Wes Unseld. All right. Then in the second round, the New York Knicks had to beat the Milwaukee Bucks. In 1970, Milwaukee Bucks led by 22-year-old rookie Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Once again, these guys coming in as rookies is not the same as these clowns today coming in as rookies who only played 1 year in college. These guys are like 19, come in. They don't know what the hell they're doing. They don't know the game of basketball like that. They're getting by off their athleticism. That's all it is. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar played 4 years in college, man. When he came to the NBA, he wasn't some soft, snot-nosed kid. He was a legit basketball player. He was coming in the league ready, like a lot of these guys did, because they spent years in college developing, turning into men, turning into professionals. So Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, as a rookie, 22 years old, all those years he learned, right, from the great John Wooden at UCLA, came in averaging in the playoffs in that round against the New York Knicks, 34 points and 17 rebounds. LeBron James, Cleveland Cavaliers ain't seen no one like that the entire postseason run. Man, sniffed no one averaging 34 and 17. The highest points per game that they faced that postseason, guys, was DeMar DeRozan's 23 points a game, guys. That's the highest point per game score they faced that entire postseason run. That's an absolute joke, man. Are you in the weak, soft era like that? Guys are not scoring the ball. All the shots that they chucking up. This is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar averaging 34 and 17 as a rookie. No three-point line in sight for these guys. Earl the Pearl Monroe, I believe, averaged 27 points a game in that first round, if I'm not mistaken. So once again, these are just the facts, guys. Dealing with much tougher competition. The Milwaukee Bucks in 1970. So just remember, this is the year before they got Oscar Robertson. Remember, they would win the championship the next year, the Milwaukee Bucks. You had Bob Dandridge on that team. Like I said, led by an all-time great, arguably the greatest player of all time, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, man. All right? So this is a far cry from the number 4 seed Atlanta Hawks that the Cleveland Cavaliers face in the second round, led by Al Horford and Paul Millsap, man. Stop it. Paul Millsap, Al Horford could have shined the shoes of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar when he was 42. On his worst day, they couldn't come close to that dude. That's who the Knicks beat in the second round. Then, well, I guess it would be that would be like the finals, I guess, because they didn't have, 3 rounds and then the championship back then. And then in the NBA finals, they had to beat the 1970s Knicks. They had to face the 70 Lakers with Will Chamberlain, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor. And the Knicks, and that went 7 games. So they went 7 games in the first round, 7 games in the finals against Will Chamberlain, Jerry West, and Elgin Baylor. You're talking about 3 of the greatest players of all time. And at that time, you're talking about 3 of probably the top 10 players that ever played a game at that time in the 1970 season. Elgin Baylor was probably a top 5, top 10 player. Will Chamberlain was viewed as arguably the greatest player of all time, him and Bill Russell. This is what you were dealing with. And Jerry West was known as the most clutch time performer in the NBA at that time. This is what you're dealing with. The guy who's the logo of the NBA. The Knicks beat those teams, led by those great players that I mentioned. Guys like Wes Unseld, guys like Earl the Pro Monroe, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Like I said, the Will Chamberlain. This is who they beat, the Knicks, and their playoff run. You're telling me their playoff runs are not more impressive than LeBron James, Cleveland Cavaliers beating KCP, Tobias Harris, Marcus Morris, Detroit Pistons, led by Stan Van Gundy? Or the number 4 Hawks, led by Paul Millsap, Kyle Korver? Or the Raptors, led by DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry? Like I said, they beat the Warriors in the finals. That's great, man. No one's knocking that, but come on, man. We can make excuses the same way LeBron James fans make excuses for his losses and falters, man. No one's impressed with that run. That was a great finals win for the Cleveland Cavaliers, but that run was not impressive. Like I said, I just gave you an example, the 1970 Knicks, and their run to the finals and the championship, way more impressive. Better teams led by much greater players. That's the facts, man. These are the facts, my friends. You guys know to do this channel, man. So I'm getting tired of them promoting everything has to be LeBron James. Whatever he touches is one of the greatest of. So now the 2016 Cavaliers have one of the toughest runs in NBA's history. They're trying to put them up there with the 2011 Mavericks or the 1970 Knicks. Like I said, the 1998 Bulls and maybe one of the runs, or the 1993 Bulls, they had a very tough run. They had to face the 60-win New York Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals, the number 1 defense. Then they had to face the number 1 offense in the NBA Finals. I mean, but the teams that they had to beat up to that point, they had to beat some really good teams, man. To me, like I said, it's hard to quantify who had the greatest run, but you can narrow it down to the most impressive runs, top 5, top 10 most impressive runs in NBA's history. I don't see how the Cleveland Cavaliers are in the conversation with some of these other teams that we've talked about in NBA's history, guys. You guys know the deal, man. I'll catch you guys on the next one.